Today I'm going to show you how to make one of my very favorite cookies. It's a very special recipe, so special in fact that it's been laminated. This is the laminated copy. This came from Matt's great-grandmother, Dolly. His mother, Miss Cindy, was gracious enough to share it with me, and she had it laminated for me so that it would always be preserved. But that's Dolly's. It's hard to see with the glare of the lamination, but that's Dolly's handwriting. I really love that on the back you can see where someone was figuring out some numbers there. They were doing some figuring, so they were adding there and subtracting. Also, some other stuff wrote on there. Let's see, Neela Garman on the back. So I don't know. There's kind of a heart and maybe YW. I'm not sure what any of that means, but I just love it that it's all protected and all documented into this beautiful recipe that Dolly used for so many years. Miss Cindy had it, of course, for a long time, and it had been folded, so it was folded in, probably stuck in a cookbook. I've done that before too, so you can still see the folds of the recipe too. But really special to have those old recipes. If you're someone that loves to cook and you just think, oh, that's the easiest recipe, nobody would be interested in that, I highly encourage you to write it down somewhere for your kids, for your grandkids, for your neighbors, your church people, anybody that might be interested. They'd be glad that you wrote it down. So I hope that you'll do that. I'm lucky that I have several of Dolly's old recipes. Here's another one that Miss Cindy laminated for me, black walnut cookies. I have a video on that, so I'll link to it. So I'm really lucky that that Dolly took time to write them down, but also that Miss Cindy saved them, that Miss Cindy's family saved them, and how blessed I am that she gave them to me. Now, I've always been a fan of cookies, but when I first had these, Miss Cindy had made them, and I really loved them. And then I got the recipe, and this was when me and Matt was first married, and I made the cookies, and my family really loved them. Paul declared that they were the best cookies he had ever eaten. And for many years, that's what every year, he's a New Year's baby, his birthday's on New Year's Day, that's what I would give him for his birthday. I would make him a whole big thing of cookies and give him the cookies. I've not done that in the last few years. I need to. I'm not even sure why I quit doing that, but we all loved them. One thing that's really, and it's such an old recipe that you're probably familiar with it might be called something different. She called them Oatmeal Crispies. I've run across recipes which are very similar called Oatmeal Refrigerator Cookies, so you might be familiar with one of those variations. But that is something nice about them, is that you can make the dough ahead of time and put them in your refrigerator. That's part of the process, and then just make them as needed. So you can make them like I probably do today, and put them in the refrigerator like you're supposed to and let them chill, and then make them all at once. That's probably what I'll do. But if you wanted some fresh cookies, for several days in a row, just straight out of the oven, they're so good like that. You could certainly just leave them in your refrigerator and cook them as needed. I would guess that the dough would last at least a couple of weeks, if not maybe even 3 weeks, but at least a couple of weeks if you wrapped them really tightly. And you could also freeze them. You could also do that too. So now the ingredients, what do you need? You need 1 1/2 cup of flour, 1 1/2 cups of flour, that's all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of soda, 1 cup of shortening, 1 cup of white sugar, and 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 eggs, and then 3 cups of oatmeal, quick cooking oatmeal or instant oatmeal, and 1/2 cup chopped nuts. She suggests pecans, but I'll tell you the truth, I have never, not once, added the nuts to them. I've never added the nuts. And Miss Cindy didn't add the nuts when she made them either, so that part's totally optional. Now, it's very easy to whip up just like most cookies, but I'm going to go over to the mixer and I'll show you how to put it all together. Okay, the first step is I've got the shortening in there and the brown sugar. I'm going to add the white sugar, which I'm using not refined sugar, so that's why it looks a little bit brown. And then we're going to cream that together. Now we're going to add our eggs. Mix well. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and sift together my dry ingredients right here beside them. Now we're going to add the vanilla, mix it in. Now we're going to add our dry ingredients. I'm going to regret it if I spill it. So I better get something to add it a little bit at a time. Okay, now we're ready to add the oatmeal. And this, I've done this, I do this in the mixer just because it's easier for me, but you could do it with a big spoon, especially if your mixer gives you a hard time. Like when I first started making it, I didn't have a stand mixer, and sometimes the oatmeal would run up under the bottom of my hand mixer. So you could try putting a little bit of the oatmeal and then stirring the rest in if you need to do that, what works for you. But even though it makes my mixer jump around, I usually just try to let the mixer do the work. You could probably add a little bit at a time, would be better too than what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go for it. Okay, now we're ready for the next step. Okay, so the last part before you actually get to bake the cookies is I'll read you Dolly's instructions. Roll in waxed paper, shape dough into 2 long rolls. Roll in waxed paper, place in refrigerator 2 or 3 hours, remove and slice into 1/4 inch slices, bake in moderate oven 10 to 15 minutes. 400 she's got in there kind of by the side of it. Now over the years what I've found is I couldn't make them in those long rolls without them, like it just got too cumbersome, so I don't even worry about the size of the rolls. Now I do, it's just personal preference, you could think about the size if you're not going to make them into 2 long ones, the size, the roundness that you want. This is a cookie that spreads some, so even if you make them pretty small, they're going to end up to be a bigger cookie. So if you make this recipe, that's something you just probably want to play with, and then the next time you make them, if you like them, you might have a better gauge on how you want to shape your rolls. So I don't even think about in the very beginning I tried the 2 rolls and it just didn't work well for me. So I just make them into little small rolls that are easy to handle and shape as I go, and then put them in the refrigerator. Let me get some out. Make sure I get it all out. And you can use, over the years I've used saran wrap, like plastic wrap, I've used the wax paper, I've used foil, I think I've even used parchment paper, so whatever you have on hand will work fine. So then I just get some and start thinking about shaping them into, this is a part too, if Corey and Katie would like to help with this when they were little. If you've got little kids, they like to, it's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. So there's me one little roll. And it's not a dough that's real sticky that sticks to your hands bad, but if you had problems with that, you could put some butter or some shortening or grease or whatever oil on your hands to help. But for me, it doesn't usually need anything like that. Now I'm going to scoop my dough over just so I can show you one of them. Now when it comes to rolling them, I even, because I make them in those little rolls, I like spread out my wax paper, saran wrap, whatever I'm going to use, and kind of roll them all in one. So I roll that one where it's kind of shut off from the air, and then scoot over a little bit and roll that one so that they're separated inside there, they're not touching. And then roll another one. I don't know if I can get 2 more in this one. I better just go with one. And then I like to put them on a tray just because it makes it easier, because they are soft, so it makes it easier as far as transporting it into the refrigerator. Once it's in there, it'll get firm, and then they're easier to hold on to. But at this stage, that just makes it easier for me than to worry about them kind of coming apart on me between the refrigerator and here. But really, this is all so simple. You're just wanting to refrigerate the dough. I'm sure that you could probably just put it in a bowl and put it in there. So anything that works for you. This is just the method that Dolly used, and then the method that I've used since I followed her recipe. But it's very simple, so whatever you come up with will work just fine. Okay, we've got them all wrapped up. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, and then we'll bake them and see how good they are. So now we're ready to slice the cookies and actually bake them and see how wonderful they are. I think her original recipe said to slice them into 1/4 inch slices. Mine are not always that. I probably go a little bit thicker than that. But then I may be making since she just did the 2 long rows, you know, that may be a difference too. And if they come apart a little bit on you, I've found that that's okay. It doesn't matter at all. And then I just put them on the baking sheet. And I don't grease the baking sheets either. There's my oven coming to heat. And after you do, you know, a roll or two or make them, then you'll figure out how far apart you need to put them on the baking sheet as far as when they spread. These are going to be so good. I can't wait. That one kind of come apart. Sometimes I'll save the ends and kind of put them together, and since they're kind of on the small side where I had actually sliced them, my rolls were not even, in other words. Any way you do it, it's a delicious cookie though, so it doesn't really matter. It's going to be wonderful. Okay, I've got the first ones ready. I'm going to put them in. We're going to bake them at 400 for about 6 minutes. But in your oven, it may be hotter, may be cooler. You'll just kind of have to keep a check on them, and then we'll be ready to taste them. So we've got all the cookies baked. We had to call Katie up from the dungeon so she could eat some with us. She's washing her hands. She said her hands were dirty from where she'd been working on stuff today. What have you been working on, Katie?
Lots of rings.
Lots of rings.
Lots of earrings.
Okay, well, so you ready? I poured you some milk. Corey don't drink milk, so I got me and Katie some milk. We'll get our cookie here. Y'all ready?
Nobody leave a comment saying, Corey don't drink milk. Corey don't like milk.
They're kind of like chewy on the inside. So good. Hey, you're going to try to steal them?
Yeah.
That's when you know cookies are good, if your daughter tries to steal them all.
I'm just going to take the whole thing and run. I ate my cookie in milk. What's in here? Is that oatmeal?
We don't really taste the oatmeal, I don't think, do you? Or do you think you do?
And it's kind of like a sugar cookie, but it's got a lot of good texture. I knew because of the texture, and I can kind of see the oatmeal. It's a lot better than a sugar cookie.
If you like kind of a chewy texture.
I don't want to eat cookies that are harder to break. I like
chewy
this.
cookies. They're not soft. You're just chewy.
Could you add raisins to this recipe?
I guess you could.
Then you have oatmeal raisin. Precisely. Didn't you used to make these cookies when we were kids?
I used to make them more often than I do now. This was Dolly, Miss Cindy's grandmother's recipe. Neat.
Dolly and Crawford. This is good. Good job, Dolly.
Of course, I'm sure she didn't invent it herself. I've seen it in other cookbooks and stuff. It was probably just one that was popular at that time frame.
Another cookie. I was trying to decide which one.
It's still very tasty today.
Thanks, Dolly.
It's a win.
Mm-hmm. Win. No, look, I can put my cookie back together.
Oh gosh. Well, we hope that you enjoyed seeing how to make Dolly's oatmeal Crispies. Like I said, it's a common recipe. You may have already known about it from somewhere else. Please leave a comment though if you do. Maybe it was passed down in your family like it's passed down in Matt's family. That's what I love. So how many generations would that be? That would be Dolly, Curtis, Miss Cindy, your daddy, and y'all.
5.
So 5 generations. I think that's pretty nice. I like that. Plus, they're really good cookies. As always, we'll be glad if you drop back by often to help us celebrate Appalachia, whether we're making cookies or making a garden, talking about language, all the wonderful things that we celebrate.
Bye.
Get your arm up.
Yo, I surprised y'all both when I started trying to go with it. Y'all were looking at me. I was like, whoa. So good.
They're very good.
Mm.
What's
Special
that?
treat and some.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. We're really good at this.
Give you their energy to keep working.
I'm tired. No, easy to set back down. You don't realize how much, it's just so much goes into every individual little piece.
Sure. It's like craftsman.
It's like one
Craftsmanship.
pair of earrings. You're like, oh, you just, it's so many steps. You gotta solder. So in those studs, there's 3 solder joints in them. And then you gotta set the stone, patina it, wipe some of the patina off, polish it. It just takes a while.
And if you cut the stones, it even starts before that.
It does. When I start outside, I mean, I pick up the rock, then I gotta take it home. Then I gotta slab it, then I gotta cut it, then I gotta make something out of it. It just takes a while. Every piece spends time with me. Every piece spends time going through my hands. It does.
Kind of like you're raising children and then you send them out into the world.
Sometimes I'm like, that's how I feel about my work. I'm like, I really like this. I don't want to send it out. I hit the spot.
Thanks.
Very nice surprise. Thank you for my cookies.
You're welcome.
How are you feeling there?
I'm
gonna head out, y'all.
Oh.
Of course, still trying to steal the cookies. Gosh, better watch out. That one's almost shaped like a heart. It's kind of
Just in time for Valentine's Day.
You end your video? I gotta stop. How many of you ate?
Alright, too many.
I've ate like 3. I like how all our little glasses, they're all pretty much the exact same height, but they're just different. Let's see, one of these I thought I
They're all
brought.
snuff jars.
Are they? Just these 2 are too? I love
These 2 come from Sally's.
Sally's,
our friend,
that's
yeah.
right, okay. I haven't, there's another one that kind
From
of looks
our
like
friend
this that I
Sally.
thought- Yeah, I love that one. Mine's got a pineapple in it. I'm gonna eat that pineapple too. I didn't mean to put the pineapple in it, but these make the perfect drinking
Oh,
bowl.
they do. And I love the ones like that. That might have been my great-grandmother's.
She dips snow.
Okay. I think all my grandmothers dip snuff.
But Mama, in a couple of years, if I have a baby, you're gonna have to start dipping it. Yeah, I better carry on the tradition, Mom. That's funny, y'all. Good cookies. What made you want to make some cookies?
I usually make these for Paul's birthday for years. I didn't last year, I know, and I didn't this year. I don't even think I did the year before, so, you know, usually after Christmas I think about him with his birthday.
Pete Jackson.
That'd be the best cookie he'd ever eat.
I'll have to take some for him down there. He'll like that.